Now, I'm going to tell you a story of what never to do. It happened in Turkey. Well, it involves an individual who identifies as being male and straight, cisgendered. Well, here's what this bonehead did. And I'm glad he went to jail for it. I hope they keep him in jail for a long period of time. And you can think, or you can see what you think about, well, his accomplishment. It wasn't there, but what was there? Let me relay the story to you. Well, the dude was married, and wouldn't you know, he did what pretty much 99.999% of married men do. He cheated on his wife with another woman. And when his wife found out about it, and she was pretty mad with him. And so he concocted a boneheaded and crazy, very violent, misogynist idea. He contacted the woman. She now knew, that he was married. But he contacted her and, asked her to come over. She was hesitant, didn't want to do it. And what do you know? He insisted. And she obliged and came over. He then lured her into his car, and then once he got in the car, he acted like he wanted her to, have relations with him. But then he beat her up. And he was beating her up in the car. She literally thought she was going to die. That's how bad he was beating her up. And then he calls his wife and puts her on the phone and tells his wife, "Are you happy with me?" And she's like, "Yeah. Beat her up once for me." Fortunately, this sick freak in Turkey has been apprehended, and he's in prison because he's a danger to the society. He's sick, not well. So thank you very much, Turkey, for looking after women in this instance. I don't always give proper thanks for when people do the right thing. When the state does the right thing, we ought to thank the state for that as well. Because they certainly do a lot of wrong things. So we ought to thank them for the little things that they do correctly. What about the wife? Her role in this. She doesn't look good. She doesn't look good at all. Beat her up once for me. If your husband will beat up one woman that he sleeps with, he'll beat up the other one too. If somebody's an animal, they're not going to not be an animal just because they're around you. They'll still be an animal. She's not all that much better. Maybe there's some trauma, early year trauma. We ought to find out. There was a woman who just recently snapped. I can't remember what country it was. I should look this up. But she killed all of her children. She had 3 children. She killed all 3. And then, when the husband came back home, because he was off working, he didn't know. When he came back, all the kids were dead. And she was trying to kill herself. And, she was apprehended and arrested. And, wouldn't you know, she told the medical people she had never had a happy day in her life. She had never been happy once in her life. Mental health issue, if you've never been happy once. And she was 30-something years old, in her late 20s. I can't remember the exact age. But, she wasn't a little kid anymore, because she had 3 little babies. Mental health is a real thing. We're not funding it. There's not enough social programs. There's not enough counselors. There's not enough, there's not enough services, resources in any community. And that's why you see a lot of people out on the street suffering. They're suffering really bad. And the state is not taking care of them in the proper way. No, they've decided to fund, police. And the police, you see little snippets every night on your news of them exterminating the people on the street. That's what the state is doing. They won't fund resources for the people. They'll just exterminate the people. That's your lovely state for you. You know, it's happening in every municipality, every city, every county, every town, every little rural community. They're just killing people. That's what they're doing. Extrajudicial murders, operated and completed by the state. Oftentimes your local police department, your sheriff's department. You know, Bob Marley sang the song, I shot the sheriff, but I didn't shoot the deputy. You know, what happened to the Andy Griffin days, where you kicked the person to the jail and they sobered up and the next day they were out and about. You talked with the person while they were in the cell. The person was a human. Yeah, they were a wino. Yeah, they got drunk all the time. But you knew the person. The person was your neighbor. The person was, known to the community. They need help. They need a little helping hand. And every once in a while the person messed up. And the police were there to make sure that, the mess up wasn't too bad. They sort of kind of prevented crime. They don't prevent crime. You don't call the police to prevent a crime. The crime has already been done when the police show up to the scene. Most of the time, the police are doing the crimes. And, it's not the citizenry. It's the state that's committing the crimes. They're exterminating the mentally ill out in the streets. That's what they're doing. You know, do you remember a scene that everybody witnessed, but then they saw it, and then they didn't see it? Well, there was an individual by a shelter. I'll close on this, because it's very insidious what they're doing. There was an individual by a shelter, and there was a journalist that interviewed him. He came up to him, and he asked him, what are you doing here? And he said, I'm out on the street. I'm homeless. And the gentleman asked him, why aren't you in the shelters? And he responded back, they're killing people in the shelters. They're killing people in the shelters. You know, they're not killing people in the shelters. They're killing people out on the street. The shelters are fine. If you can find space in the shelter, there's not enough shelters. There's not enough resources out on the street. Most people want to be helped, but there's no help there. There's nothing around. There's not enough. And the people that need or get the help, they have the money to get the help. And if you don't have the money to get the help, you don't get the help. Because it comes down to capital. So there are people getting help. And there are plenty of people that aren't, that need it too. You know, the state is carrying out extrajudicial killings. And they're killing people out on the street. And we as the citizenry, we ought to stand up against that.